Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid, but today is the 24th of January 2024. And following are the topics of discussion for today's show. We'll begin with the day 110 of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Whether you call it war or barbarism or genocide, it has different names, but the fact remains that it is the people of Palestine, whether they belong to Gaza or the occupied West Bank, who are the ultimate victims of this tragic event that has unfolded since the 7th of October last year. Pakistan has called for concrete steps by the United Nations to stop the Israeli slaughter of Gaza, saying that a lasting end to the Palestine-Israel conflict can only come through a two-state solution. Pakistan is not the only one talking about it. There are many other countries talking about it. But there are also certain sectors who no longer believe in the two-state solution. Now, taking part in the debate on the Middle East crisis at the Security Council in New York, Pakistan permanent representative to the United Nations, Munawar has said that Pakistan hopes the Security Council will be able to adopt a resolution that will demand a complete cessation of hostilities, full access to humanitarian assistance for the besieged population of Gaza, and international protection for the Palestinian people. This and more is going to be part of our first story. Our second story today concerns the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has won in New Hampshire in its primary that happened yesterday. Of course, there's a 12-hour difference between the US and Pakistan, and therefore we're talking about the story on a Wednesday evening. Donald Trump had also underscored his support in New Hampshire, saying that the people are going to all vote for me again. And it seems as if New Hampshire has voted for him. Nikki Haley, who was also one of the presidential hopefuls, says she's staying in the race. She wants to congratulate Donald Trump, she said, on his victory tonight, but the race is far from over. Joe Biden is also slowly moving in. So it seems as if in these elections in the United States of America, it's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, if things go the way they are moving. Then we're going to talk about Turkey that has ratified the Swedish NATO membership. Now, MPs from Turkey have ratified this bid to join NATO. This was a long delayed vote as far as Sweden is concerned. They had applied for it in 2022, but there were some issues, and now that Turkey has ratified it, the only country that remains to come on board is Hungary. But it seems also that the situation between Hungary and Sweden seems to go for the better. So it seems as if Sweden is going to be a full member of NATO very, very soon. Finally, we're going to talk on a very interesting story of this deaf boy who can now hear after a breakthrough gene therapy. The Children's Hospital of Philadelphia has said that this milestone represents a hope for patients across the world with hearing loss that have been caused by genetic mutations. And of course, the boy in question, as you can see in the picture in your parallel window, is Assam Dam, who was born profoundly deaf because of a highly rare abnormality in a single gene. That's the lineup for today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll begin today's program with a detailed discussion on the Israel-Palestine conflict, war, genocide, whatever you might name it. This is day 110 as far as that conflict is concerned. But before we begin with that, I'd like to highlight one important thing, and that concerns our Prime Minister, our caretaker Prime Minister, Nawal Kakar Saab. He gave an interview to CGTN in Davos. And he said that having achieved the first phase of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, Pakistan was benefiting from its early harvest projects while remaining engaged with China to execute the next phase. He said, and I quote, "We have already achieved the CPEC's first phase and we are benefiting from the early harvest projects. We do need more deliberations when it comes to the second phase." He also said the CPEC second phase required road and air connectivity around the industrialization projects. He also said that he was always sanguine about it. He said there are 1.5 billion consumers and 1.5 billion producers. How can you, of course, he was talking more about the people and their engagement. Then he said that being a huge marketplace, both China and the world were interested in each other. He also talked about his government's priorities. He said that economic revival, the transformation of technology and taxation reforms were amongst the priority of his caretaker government. He also said that Pakistan was on the middle ground amidst the discourse between the global north and south and other conflicts in the region. He also said domestically the government needed to earn more and spend less. So this was just part, a little part of the discussion that our caretaker Prime Minister Anwar al-Haq Saab had with CGTN in Davos, and this was of course telecast today as well. Let's begin with our main story for today, and that is the Israel-Palestine conflict, day 110. We've been joined in the studios by Dr. Manzoor Afridi, a foreign affairs expert. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us.
Pleasure.
Dr. Saab, when it comes to Munir Akram Saab, because I'd like to highlight all the important comments that he did give in the United Nations. We know that a special session of the UN is going on as we speak. Munir Akram demands that Palestine be recognized as a full member of the United Nations, stresses for a two-state solution for the problem. In your point of view, what are the possibilities of the realization of a two-state solution, and what does all of this indicate as far as global geopolitics are concerned?
Omar Khalid Saab, Pakistan has always supported the cause of Palestine and reiterated its commitment for the two-state solution. So now this demand and point endorsed by the Pakistan Special Representative in UN, Mr. Munir Akram, it shows that how much Pakistan is concerned about the Palestine conflict. Let me tell you that there are, two perspectives. One, that is the temporary, and second, that is the permanent. So in temporary situation, if we see, both are very much blurred. The picture is, that's not clear in this Palestine conflict. But if we talk about the temporary one, so one thing that there should be ceasefire. But we have seen that even for the last 24 hours, more than 200 innocent Palestinians, those are killed in Khan Yunis and also in Gaza. Second, after ceasefire, the unrestricted supply, food supply, and also of the medical supply to all those who are in hunger and all those who are patients who are injured by the Israeli aggression. And third thing, that there should be commitment from the international community, and United Nations is there on the top priority, that there would be no aggression in future from any side, right? So these are the temporary things what UN especially can think over it. And for the permanent one, I have said on so many platforms and also here, that for the permanent, the two-state solution, I think there is no way but only the two-state solution. The Israeli state and the Palestinian state. Second thing, what is necessary, that is the return of all the Palestinians who are refugees in various countries, and most of them, those are in Middle Eastern countries, some in Europe and also in America.
And you should not forget the more than 1.9 million Palestinians who have been displaced from Gaza.
Yes, the recent. And so the point is that those should be returned to their homes, where they left their homes in the wake of 1967, the Second Arab-Israel War. So these things are important. But now if we see the current situation, what is going on there, so that it's really hard, even international community or the United Nations or Security Council, not going to stop this war. So this is genocide. What you said in the start of this show, that whether it is war, it is conflict, it is genocide, I call it genocide because, indiscriminately, they are killing the people, old, young, children, patients, women. So everything, it is on their target. So in this situation, I think it's really hard that whether they will think over it or not, but they must, because there is no way. Let me tell you, there are examples in the past we have, like Taiwan and the People's Republic of China issue. Taiwan's, officially it's called Republic of China, and the mainland China is People's Republic of China. So Taiwan, since it was democratic, so it was strongly supported by the Western powers in the Cold War period. So from 1945, when the UN was established, till 1971, Taiwan was representing the entire Chinese population in the United Nations. I mean that maybe 4 or 5% by territory if we see Taiwan, right? And PRC was not allowed to be a member of the United Nations. But after that, when there was a rapprochement between United States and China, I mean mainland China, and when the Richard Nixon visited China in 1972, but before him, Henry Kissinger visited China. So it was the first demand from China that Taiwan should be, it should be out from the UN, and People's Republic of China, I mean Communist China, it should be a member. United States accepted it, and since then, 1971, now People's Republic of China is representing the entire Chinese population, not the Taiwan.
Manzoor Afridi sahab, can a repeat of that happen as far as Palestine is concerned?
Possible, if the veto powers they want. Possible, if the big powers, the Western countries, if they want, and especially United States want, UK want, and on so many international fronts, on so many issues, these two states, UK and US, they are almost everywhere, every time they are on the same page. So if they want, it's possible. The recent escalation you can see in Yemen, how United States is carrying out its, strikes on the Houthis.
Houthis, yes.
Yes, in Yemen. So same thing, it can be done. I mean, why not such the action? I don't say that only the United States should carry out, but even the UN forces, they should take measures, right? Whether those are raids, I mean surgical, strikes, air strikes, or something else against the Israeli forces, but they are nothing. They are doing nothing. So it is the double standard, right? From the past, I gave you example in even the recent situation, the today's situation in Yemen, I gave you example.
All right. I'd like to understand, Manzoor Afridi Saab, when our permanent representative calls for cessation of hostilities, full access to humanitarian assistance, and international protection for the Palestinian people, do you feel this is possible under the current geopolitical circumstances that are encircling Palestine?
We wish, but really hard, because geopolitics of Middle East, that is very much complicated now, especially after the Arab Spring. Yemen, that is not stable. Iran, it has so many problems. Syrian conflict, it's still going on. Iraq, even it is unstable. Egypt, to some extent we can say. Lebanon, even politically, is not very much stable. So the situation in Middle East, that is, erupting more and more, in security dynamics. So again, I would say, if the big powers, if the veto powers of UN Security Council, if they really want, anything is possible.
They can also hold Israel accountable.
Yeah, they can, and they must, but they are not doing it. Even if South Africa is going to have complained and to file a case, against the Israel in the International Court of Justice in The Hague, the Netherlands, right? Why not these states?
I agree with you on that. Munir Akram Saab also said, I am quoting him because he said a lot of important points. He said, the behavior of the extremist Israeli leadership will consign the Middle East to a perpetual conflict. Do you agree with it? And if so, what's your take on it?
No doubt, yes. Because the situation, it is going to be complicated more and more in future, in near future. And the already hostile situation, I would say, in Middle East, that will, the Palestinian conflict and the Israeli aggression, it will add more and more. So even it can go to an extent where then it's even not possible for the big stakeholders of the Middle East then to control it, what we have seen in the aftermath of the Arab Spring. Right?
All right.
So I totally agree with Munir Akram Saab that then it's really difficult to stop it.
There are different meetings that are also being held which have also condemned the Israeli attitude. For example, the third South-South summit, the G77 plus China, has called for protection of civilians, immediate cessation, a ceasefire in Gaza. Then we also have the Arab League that got together and talked about exactly the same thing. Then we've got this special session of the United Nations that is going on Middle East, in which Munir Akram Saab highlighted the same things. Different organizations get together, they talk about this. There's also the EU where that is talking to both the Palestinian and the Israeli sides to find some kind of a solution for a truce or a ceasefire or a long-term cessation of hostilities. There are a lot of things happening, but which arena do you feel is the most powerful or is the more effective as far as cessation of hostilities is concerned?
I think, yes, European Union is concerned, Arab League is concerned, OIC it has already convened its meeting, and even the G77 is concerned, already it has held now meeting in Kampala in Uganda.
Yes.
About this genocide in Gaza. All of them, I think, those are important, but the most important, I would say, that is the United States. And if you talk about these organizations, so European Union, that's important.
All right.
Because this European Union, EU, has so many stakes in the Middle East, especially it is very much strong relationship with Israel, right? So, and it's not only limited to just diplomatic relationship, I mean the economic, the security, the political, the cultural, the educational, all kinds of, this relationship encompassing all dynamics of relationship between the EU states and Israel. So, if they really take some strong measures, I mean some concrete measures, so possible that this hostility it can be ended, and even the everlasting durable solution of this conflict we can search out in the shape of the two-state solution.
All right. There's another effect of this conflict, and I would rather say an extension of this conflict, and that is what is happening in the Red Sea. The Houthis versus the UK and the US. The US military of late has carried out more strikes in Yemen, destroying 2 Houthi anti-ship missiles. Also, the US has asked China to help curb the Red Sea attacks by Houthis. Then you've got Joe Biden's Middle East envoy who has held talks in the region. Do you feel that these hostilities in the Red Sea is a ploy by Houthis to exert pressure on the Western powers that are backing Israel, because the way it hurts them most is through economy? Do you feel this is a tactic that will go on for some time, or do you feel it will be stopped before some tangible result comes out?
I think it's very much possible that these, the resurgence of the Houthis in this Red Sea, it can be a kind of pressure to be built on the Western powers, especially on the US and UK, and just to make Israel accountable, or at least to build a pressure on Israel to stop this aggression and this genocide of the Palestinian people. Yes, it's possible, and about the question that whether it will be continued in future or not, I think that also depends on the strategy of the US and UK and the other their allies.
Because the Houthis, they say they are doing this to exert pressure, and they are doing this for the Palestinians.
Yes. So if I think the counter strategy of the US and its allies, if those are productive, then it can be stopped. But if they are really fail, to counter the Houthis, then yes, in future it will be continued. And even the other, for example, like Hezbollah, it can also be, it can resurge in this geopolitics of the Middle East.
Dr. Manzoor Afridi, we already know of the 1.9 million plus Palestinians who have been displaced from Gaza. Now Israeli forces have issued evacuation orders for 513,000 people who are all together in a small area in southern Gaza to flee elsewhere. Why is Israel continuing with such tactics to displace the Palestinians from their birthplace, from the origin, from the area where they have been staying? A, is it because to ultimately install Israeli settlers? B, is it to push the Palestinians somehow to neighboring countries like Egypt or Jordan? And C, is it to, I don't like to use the word, kill them in another area altogether of Palestine, as they have been doing since the 7th of October?
I think there are two things. One, that is, to displace them just to reduce the manpower of the Hamas, right? That people, they are very much committed with Hamas, the Palestinians. So if those are displaced, then there can be an outrage against the Hamas from the Palestinian people that it was because of this, like this, and this war was continued, and they became homeless, right? So this is the possibility what the Israel is doing. And another thing, that is the settlement. Already Israel, it has made so much settlements, the installations, and they are making more and more buildings, and they are just propagating their own such kind of populations. So even the Syrian, the Golan Heights, they are also moving towards that, and that is the serious violation of the Palestinian territory. That even Palestine is not allowed to be a full-fledged member as a state, right? But even now their people, they are displaced, and for the so many years, right? And now in this recent escalation for the last 100 years, so Israel want to have more settlements in this regard.
That is the ultimate aim, isn't it? Is also to displace more and more Palestinians so that they can occupy more and more land in Gaza, and this is what the ultimate game plan of Netanyahu is, also to install Israeli military once the conflict ends. I'd like to have your point of view on two issues regarding the United Nations. First is Pakistan and Malaysia's bid to have Palestine as a member of the United Nations. Secondly, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres, who says that the risks of a regional war are now a reality. He talks about the alternative of one-state solution with such a large number of Palestinians inside without a real sense of freedom, right and dignity as inconceivable. Do you feel that anything can be done to prevent escalation, and if so, what should be the immediate measures?
I think even the UN Secretary General or the UN bodies or all the other organizations, and they must be concerned, and they will take some measures if it really hurts their own interests within the Middle East, right? And what about the measures? I think any of the diplomatic measure, and even possible that the UN peacekeeping operations, peacekeeping forces, those can also be done in Middle East in future if such kind of thing happens, that it becomes uncontrollable for them, for the UN or for all the major stakeholders, I mean big powers who have their interest in Middle East, then yes, they will take some measures.
Or the Norwegian foreign minister calls for radical setup of humanitarian efforts in Gaza. He also says we cannot just count trucks and not, have the aid come in. This was, of course, in reference to a recent deal that was made with countries due to which the trucks managed to enter. Do you feel the importance of humanitarian aid as far as medicine, food, water is concerned is also paramount, and if so, what needs to be done by the United Nations, by the neighborhood countries?
I think United Nations is very much responsible. Even if we see the relationship of Israel and its neighboring states, so not very much in a good condition, and then even some distrust, it can be more developed in future. So United Nations, it can take step towards this humanitarian aid, humanitarian assistance, and to stop humanitarian aid or the medical supply, food supply, anyone. So this is also the violation of the, the Geneva Conventions, and also violation of the UN Charter, also violation of the international law. So by all means, I think it's not tolerable, right? So United Nations, if it want, it can really take some measures for the unrestrictable supply of all the humanitarian aid, because there is representation of all states within the UN as its members.
All right, let's wish for the best. Thank you very much, Dr. Manzoor, Afridi, foreign affairs expert, who have joined us for this very important segment. Day 110, ladies and gentlemen, as far as this crisis is concerned between or this genocide or this war between Israel and Palestine is concerned. And as far as the casualties, I just wanted to add 25,700 people have been killed, 63,740 wounded. And of course, this is a number that is going to increase. Let's come to our second story. And our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the United States of America and Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, or maybe Donald Trump versus Nikki Haley, because as far as New Hampshire is concerned, here Donald Trump, the former US president, has won this primary on New Hampshire yesterday. He has given a blow to his opponent, Nikki Haley, but Nikki Haley says that the race is far from over. She says, I have news for them. New Hampshire is first in the nation. It is not last in the nation. Also, Joe Biden and both Donald Trump are moving up the ladder as far as this presidential race is concerned. So a lot of people are predicting that this is going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump race for the presidency later this year. A lot of other important developments, of course, as we've already told you, are happening. We told you about Nikki Haley, but she, despite the fact, has lost in New Hampshire, has vowed to press on with the campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss. She has toured much of New Hampshire ahead of the primary, but she was unable to catch Mr. Trump, who had a comfortable 11-point lead with most of the ballots counted. Now, the former president last week also won a landslide in Iowa's caucuses. Ms. Haley was placed third behind Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis. And of course, now it is between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, but it seems as if Donald Trump is going to emerge winners. We've been joined to discuss on this very topic by Dr. Munawar Hussain. He's a foreign affairs expert, and he's right here with us in the studios. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, former US President Donald Trump wins the New Hampshire primary. What are his chances of being the sole candidate from the Republican side?
I mean, it is now almost clear, and he is so popular, and the perception in America is that he is fighting against the deep state. And it is because of the bad performance of the current administration, where the inflation is increasing day by day, taxes are sky rocketing, and we are also observing the failure on foreign policy front, especially in Hamas-Israel war and in Ukrainian war. So all such things makes President Trump very popular in America, and this is the reason that all surveys, they are saying that 90% people, especially the Republicans, they love President Trump to be in power again than any other candidate. As far as Nikki Haley is concerned, Nikki Haley has a track record of diplomacy, and there are some successes and there are some failures.
She's also been the governor of South Carolina.
Yes, exactly. So therefore she hopes that she would get certain votes over there, but majority of the people, they have not decided yet to whom they would give the vote, and she expects that she would garner their support.
But is she going to be stiff competition with Donald Trump?
At least in South Carolina, yes, you are right, but I don't think that in other states, because overall the air is in favor of President Trump.
All right. If the air is in favor of President Trump, is the air in favor of the Republican Party as well? I'd like to quote what Donald Trump said. He, of course, as usual, was criticizing President Joe Biden. He said, I think Biden is the worst president in the history of the country. We're all going to come back. They're all coming back. I think you can see that here. Is this a comeback for the Republican Party this year in the elections?
Look, if we see the trend of American politics, whenever the administration is successful in making economy better, it comes into power again, like President Clinton. We have a glaring example. But as far as the current administration is concerned, that the America is facing the highest ratio of budget deficit. I think $3 trillion per year. And almost America is under debt of $33 trillion. It means that 120% of American GDP is under debt. So this is the reason, I think. And then the perception, popular perception in America regarding President Joe Biden is that he is an old man, he is a weak person.
Okay.
So this is the reason. And look, President Trump's, the slogan of America First remained very popular, because at this moment the people, they want jobs. They want to stop the immigrants which are coming into America, 3 lakh people per month.
And Donald Trump has highlighted it time
and time again. So, and then he is saying again and again that, look, if my victory would be the complete defeat of the deep state. So therefore he is a popular, and since he remained a president and he has the experience, and he has experience of how pulling American troops out of war from Afghanistan. He wanted to have a friendship with North Korea. So therefore he is a popular because of all these issues, and Americans, they want him back into power again.
All right, I'd like to refer to what Joe Biden's campaign manager Judy Chavez said in a statement, and I'd like your point of view on 3 elements from that. She said tonight's results confirm Donald Trump has all but locked up the GOP nomination, and the election denying anti-freedom MAGA movement has completed its takeover of the Republican Party. I'd like to have your point of view on the GOP nomination, on the anti-freedom MAGA movement, and the takeover of the Republican Party. What's your take or your comment on all these 3?
Look, I don't have a much idea on it, but as far as Democrats are concerned, I believe that President Joe Biden would be a final nomination from the Democrats. I doubt about it, because another candidate, Gavin Newsom, is a governor of California. He is a favorite person of the establishment of America. Even the Chinese president, I mean, China gives him a priority, and therefore we observed when Chinese president, he paid visit to America, he landed in California first. So it is quite possible.
But he did win in New Hampshire, Joe Biden, didn't he?
Yeah, he won. Joe Biden won. Though his name was not
on the ballot paper.
Ballot paper, but even then, yeah, exactly. But even then, because his appearance is a weak appearance.
All right.
So therefore, I think his chances, Gavin Newsom, he has a glaring chances. And I was listening, Sajid Tarar, who is Pakistan origin, Republican political leader. He said that he would come into power, and he has a socialist agenda. And now people in America criticizing President Joe Biden because he is increasing taxes on the wealthiest people. Okay. And they say if we are earning money, it does not mean that you have to grab our money.
All right.
So I think that is the problem where President Trump has advantage, and I see that he would come into power again.
South Carolina primary, who has the chances of winning it from the Republican side? Nikki Haley, Donald Trump?
Nikki Haley, again, I would say she does not have experience as the President Trump has. Then President Trump is a successful businessman. And this is the reason now all investors, they are ready to have a bid on President Trump. And even his company, I think his name, that Digital World, its shares are shooting up in American stock exchange from $17 to the $50. So people, they have a confidence on President Trump, and they have a confidence that he would come into power again. So it is the matter of perception. Already he has set the tone and trend, and if he wins again in South Carolina, it would be a trend, established trend.
Okay.
Where Republicans, they would have advantage over all other candidates in Republicans.
Joe Biden has said a statement and he highlights indirectly or indirectly heightened polarization within the Americans, within the American nation. He talks about the stakes that could not be higher if Donald Trump, becomes the Republican nominee. He talks about our democracy, I mean the US democracy, their personal freedom from the right to choose to the right to vote. What is the future of the United States of America in your point of view? And are we looking at an increased polarization if Donald Trump does retain the nomination from the Republican side and of course is the front runner for the elections?
Look, I was in 2006, I was on a course in America, and one congresswoman, she organized a dinner for us, and she asked me a question. Do you think that America is declining? I said no, because American institutions are very strong. But if we observe currently American social, economic and political institutions, they are weakening in fact. So the future is that America would remain a power, but in a multipolar world. America would no more be a dominant power in international system.
But isn't this what the US has always wanted, to be the dominant sole power in the world?
Yes, their foreign policy agenda is, but now there is a complete failure because of their active role in Ukrainian war and in Hamas-Israel war.
All right.
Look, if we see American foreign policy, it has three historical goals: economic prosperity, security and promotion of American ideals. From all these three foreign policy perspective, if we judge American foreign policy in Ukrainian war and Hamas-Israel war, it is a complete failure. Do you think that Americans, they are more secure in Ukraine, in Middle East? Do you think that Americans are getting the economic interest out of the Middle East when the ships are hearted in Bab al-Mandab? Do you think that American ideals are promoted there? Where is American democracy, by the way? Hamas is a democratic, elected by the people of Gaza. So this is the reason, and this is not only observed in American foreign policy. Similarly, yes, there is a polarization within American society, and we are observing this, but this is again, we were expecting from President Joe Biden that he would promote democracy and American ideals, for which American soft power is very strong and is stronger than all other parts of the world. So, but he failed to do this, and American's economy is not getting up. American soft power is not purchasable in the world. The people, they don't see sympathetically because of these two wars.
All right. I would like to also understand another thing. How do you see the political process in the US? Donald Trump is already the runaway leader as far as the National Republican polling process is concerned. He has had 2 impeachments as president, 4 criminal trials that are hanging over him since leaving office. I would like to understand whether this will become the norm as far as US politics is concerned.
It is going to be a norm, and American democracy and political institutions were taken as a unique because it is the first experience of enlightenment. We did not have any other precedent or example in the world, because these were the Americans who initiated this model of democracy in the world. Therefore, they are known as champion of democracy. But we were not expecting such legal cases against a sitting or the ex-president.
But they are there.
Exactly, and this is a question mark whether the establishment, the deep state of America, would allow President Trump to be president again. Either they have to respect the public opinion or they want to have their own interest. Now, this depends on American current system. I believe overall, if you see liberalism in the world, it is no more liberal. Now it is a time of hyper-liberalism, where technocrats, they are in power. They don't respect the public opinion and their share in decision making, because democracy, the basic assumption of democracy is that they are the people who give their opinion what decisions you need to take. they have a share in decision making.
But isn't the judiciary also part of that decision making, and especially when it comes to countries such as the United States of America, because everybody looks up to the US amongst other countries, but US is one of the countries where people look up to as a symbol of democracy, as a symbol of values. If you have a main candidate who already, has had 2 impeachments and 4 criminal trials, what does that say about the whole system? Is it an overhaul of the whole system that is happening as we speak?
Overhauling of the system, not only in America, in the whole Europe. Frankly speaking, this is my understanding, whether the people they do agree with this or not. But the American themselves, they are wrapping up the liberalism in the world. And when you are wrapping up liberalism in the external world, it would have an impact on your internal politics as well. Because it was the argument of the President Wilson that you cannot detach American security, economic prosperity and democracy from the prosperity, security and democracy of the world. So therefore, he gave an idea of League of Nations. So now when China is known as a rising power, is getting benefit out of this globalization, they want to reverse it. And this process started during the President Trump's administration. But the plus point President Trump had that he wanted to mend the differences with all antagonistic states of the world. And this is known as rationality. What is rationality? Rationality, when you make a decision after deliberations. And this is the uniqueness of Democratic Party, that after having many deliberations, they take decisions. But this time, it is reversed. It is in the hand of the Republicans, especially in the case of President Trump. So therefore,
So we are going to see a lot of very interesting change of scenarios as far as the US political process is concerned during these weeks and the months that are going to follow. And we should look forward to a lot of new scenarios emerging, and we'll be, I'm sure, talking about that in the days and the weeks to come. Thank you very much, Dr. Munawar Hussain, to have joined us, foreign affairs expert, talking to us about this win of Donald Trump and how that bodes for the future of US politics, of the elections that are going to happen in the United States of America, and also Nikki Haley and Joe Biden. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's come to our last 2 stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first concerns Turkey, or Turkey, whose parliament has now backed Sweden's NATO membership. In 2022, Sweden had asked or requested for a membership of the organization that we call NATO. But there were some impediments, and because of that, there was a lull, there was a certain delay. But now Turkey is moving on Sweden's side. Their MPs have ratified the bid for Sweden to join NATO in a long delayed vote that represents a big step forward as far as its bid for membership is concerned. The only small issue that remains now is that of Hungary, that is the sole NATO member yet to ratify Sweden's accession. But apparently there are talks going on between the 2 countries, and it looks as if finally sooner rather than later, Hungary might relent to the request by Sweden, and we might be seeing Sweden as part of NATO in the months to come. But of course, a whole question mark remains now on how Hungary moves forward as far as this is concerned. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at innovations, they are astounding. There is no dearth of new things that are coming on the horizon, especially when it comes to science and technology. And that helps mankind. A lot of those do help mankind. An example of this is this boy, Sam Dam, who was born profoundly deaf because of a profoundly or a highly rare abnormality in a single gene. Now, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia has carried out a certain treatment, the first of its kind in the United States of America. And they say that the boy now can hear his father's voice, the sound of passing cars, and of course, other sounds as well. This is just an 11-year-old boy who couldn't hear anything since he was born. And now, because of innovations, because of technology, he can now listen. He has now the ability to listen. We have all of these abilities to listen, to talk to you, to this vision that we all have, but we don't realize that we are given these attributes, and when we do not have them, what we go through. And it is examples like this boy of Samdam who will now be able to listen to, who will now be taking advantage because of innovations in technology to be able to fully use his potential as a young boy of 11. We wish him all the very best, and for all those boys and girls as well who might be taking advantage of this new innovation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.